Hi, I'm Tony, and today we're going to learn about half square triangles. Half square triangles are one of the basic building blocks of quilting. They're super easy to do, and I have a couple of neat tips and techniques, and of course, I'm going to give you all the math. All of the math I'm going to go through today is going to be down below with all the 7/8 and everything else, and we'll get there. So yeah, let's get started. All right, for half square triangles, there are two different ways to sew them together, and then there are two different ways to do the math. So let's do the way that you're supposed to do it with the math. The chart down below, you notice how it has a finished half square triangle size, your beginning square that you're going to use, and then your beginning cheater square. That's what I'm going to be referring to a lot in this video. So make sure you can see that chart below whenever we're doing this. All right, so these are the two fabrics that I'm going to be using. So first, let's take a look at the different ways that you can cut it, that you can sew it together, and then we'll talk about the sizes. The first way is just taking your square, cutting it in half, and sewing your triangles together. You have two triangles, you sew them together, you iron it, you have a block. The second way is to keep them as squares and then sew them all together at one time. Then cut it separately, split it, you have two blocks that you've done all in one. That is my preferred way of doing it. And that's the cheater way of quickly making those half square triangles. All right, so let's talk about math now. So that's the way that I'm going to be sewing them together, is the cheating way of doing two at the same time. You can always just cut it apart and do one at the same time if that's the way you would like to do it. So let's talk math. First off, I need my block to be 12 inches finished total. I'm going to be making a 12-inch block full of half square triangles. So if I do my math, I want to have 4 blocks across, 4 blocks down. That is 16 blocks within my finished block. Okay, so we're going to do some math. So 12 inches divided by 4 is 3. So I need 3-inch blocks across and 3-inch blocks down. So let's take a look at our chart down below. It looks like a 3-inch finished half square triangle size has a beginning square of 3 7/8 for the traditional method. Okay, so let's cut this 3 7/inch. So, I'm sorry, yeah, 3 7/8. All right, so if we take a look at our acrylic ruler, now a lot of these stripology rulers and square ups don't have those 3/8 and 7/8. A regular acrylic ruler will. So this is how you read them. Let's take a look at this 3, and you know how to do the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch by now. So the 1/4 inch is that second mark, the 1/2 inch is the one in the center. So that's what these lines right here are. This yellow line here is a 1/4 inch, that yellow line right there is a 1/2 inch. The eighths are the ones between them. So that's a 1/8. So 2/8 would be a 1/4. 3/8. 4/8 would be a 1/2. 5/8. 6/8 would be 3/4. 7/8 is right there. That's the one that's next to the one up. So I need to cut these 3 7/8. Okay, so let's find that 7/8. Great. And I've got that there. And let's turn this here. So 3 7/8. I've got my iron on with the steam warming up, if you hear that in the background. All right, so we've got, that is my 3 7/8 inch block that I'm starting out with. All right, so now let's do the cheater method of doing two at the same time. Now there's two ways in order to mark this up. The first way is, if you have your acrylic ruler, what you want to do is draw a line down the center. Okay, so we're drawing our line down the center, and I'm using a chalk pencil that's going to wash away. Now, that is our cut line, because if we were going to just sew two together. We would cut this, stick it in the machine, sew two together. But I'm going to make this efficient, just like how I like to do, right? So we're going to then move this over a 1/4 inch and draw another line. Now that is our sew line. Let's turn this back over and let's draw our sew line on the other side. So on the 1/4 inch, I'm lining this up with my first marking that I have in the center. And then draw another line right there. And that, now I have 3 lines. So that center line is my cut line. These 2 lines on the left and the right are my sew lines. Now, there are really cool tools out there, such like as the Quilter's Magic Wand by Studio 180. I love this thing for half square triangles because if you take this wand and you line that center line right here up in the very center, you can then draw lines on your left and your right. As you see, it lines up perfectly with that chalk mark and perfectly with that chalk mark. So it's a faster way that you don't have to draw the second line and you don't have to flip it and turn it. Just put this down, go boom, boom. It's fast and it's done. All right, so I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew this line here and this line right there and come back and show it to you. All right, as you see, I've used an off-white thread and I've sewed along this chalk line and that chalk line. I did not sew that center chalk line because that center chalk line is our cut line, like I said. So there is our cut line, and now we have 2 half square triangles. So let's do some ironing and check them out and see how I did. There you are. And there's our second one. All right, so let's measure them and see how we did. So we have our acrylic ruler. It looks like it is 3.5 inches. But Tony, you said the finished half square triangle was 3 inches. Why is this measuring 3.5? It's because there's seam allowances included. So there's a 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side here and over here. Because remember, let's think back to the other videos that I did. 1/4 inch seam allowance means you have to have an extra 1/2 inch, so allow for the extra 1/4 inch all the way around. So this is a perfect half square triangle block. So now all I'm going to do is trim these edges here and here. Do not leave the little flippy flappies on the edges because it'll mess up your sewing. So if we can do the 7/8 or 3/8, there is our half square triangle finished. Now for the second method, remember I said I was going to do a cheater method. Let's say you're not the greatest at sewing straight lines. Let's say you're not the greatest at ironing to make sure it's nice and straight. And maybe you iron it so you have edges or things going out. Let's be honest, we all do it. I do it a lot. So cheater method is the way that I prefer to do it. So let me grab another block. And, oops, I put my blocks all the way over there. That's not good. All right, so I'm starting with 2 more blocks. Now, I'm setting this one aside. This is the one that's already finished. So let's take a look at our cheater method. Our cheater method, according to the chart, if I want a 3-inch finished block, I'm going to start with a 4-inch beginning square. Okay, so let's cut these 4 inches. Now, if I'm stripping, then I can cut 4-inch strips and then cut them into 4 inches. The Stripology rulers, the Martelli rulers, any fast, quick cutting rulers will allow you to cut those 4 inches or even the 4.5 if it's the next size up, if I need a 3.5 inch finished. All right, so we're cutting our 4 inches. There we are, and there's our starting. So same exact thing. I'm going to look at the black side because I want to mark this with my chalk pencil. All right, I'm going to use the magic wand this time. Let's go ahead and mark that side and that side. I don't need to cut to a line in the center because that's going to be my cut line. And I'll show you what I mean when I come back. All right, so I'm going to sew these 2 lines and come back and show you the next step. Let's cut this. All right, so same exact thing as before, except now I'm not going to follow along that line. I don't need to. I can just line up my 2 edges, my 2 corners, and sew that and cut that in half. There we are. All right, let's iron these and see how these turn out. Now, remember, I did 4 inches. 4 inches is bigger. This should not be, there we are, the 3.5 inch that the other one was. This should be bigger than the 3.5 inch. Okay, so we've got that. Let's measure and see how big these are. So this, using a 4, is, yep, it is 3 5/8. So it's 3 5/8. It's 1/8 bigger than what I need it to be. Well, what does that mean? That means now I trim it down. Because remember I said you may not sew it correctly, you may not iron it correctly, it may be a little wonky. Well, with these different, with having it a little bit bigger, you can actually now cut it down to the size you need. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out. You know what? I'm not going to use that one. Excuse me for getting in front of the camera. I'm going to use this one. So this is my Stripology Squared Mini. So it gives me a little bit better control over smaller blocks. All right, so let's do this. Now I need it, I'm going to line this up on the left-hand side. Now you notice this mini square has got these lines in the center. That is allowing to make sure that your line lines up perfectly. So I'm going to line this up along the edge and then move it down, and then I'm going to cut this 3.5 inches. And there. And now let's take a look at the other side. Now you notice here, whenever I cut it, you see how that's off? Now whenever I trim it, I need to turn it on this side, and I have to trim that side. Okay, so let's cut this over here. And that's what this center one right here is for measuring it on the other side. So let's line this up. Let's make sure it lines up along the top and along the left, and then trim that side. Now, as you see, it now lines up. And then all I have to do now is come over to this side and trim that side off. And there you have it. We have our cheater way of making sure that our block is the way it's supposed to be. Now remember, if you don't have square up rulers like this, you may want to do the 5/8 and 7/8 measuring here. So 2 different ways of doing it. Now I'm going to go ahead and get all 16 of my blocks done, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you all the cool ways that you can lay it out and show all the cool blocks. So now comes the fun part of designing and what you can do with half square triangles. Playing with design. I love just sitting here playing with squares and playing with design. This is something you can do on your mat, you can do on a design wall, on a table, wherever you want to do it. Now, I forgot to mention that I did 16 blocks. So that means I only had to cut 8 squares, because remember, each square makes 2 half square triangles. And I actually made an extra one just in case. I like to always make extras when I make little blocks like this. All right, so the first one is just a standard, making sure I have enough room to show you everything, a standard half square triangle layout. And this is actually probably the one I'm gonna sew, just because I kind of like the way it looks. So this is the first block that you have the option on. All right, come on. Let's do that. Oh, nope, that's what I was afraid of. It didn't put them together enough. There we are. Now you can see everything. And let's go up. There we are. So here's our first design. Yeah. All right, so that's just a standard half square triangle. There we are. Standard half square triangle design. And as you see, it's kind of like moves around a little bit. It's really cool. All right, so you could also do flying geese. So this is another way that you could do flying geese. Got that. There we are. What else could we do? Oh, we could do pinwheels. Let's see. Oh no, let's do diagonals. Let's do arrows. So all I have to do is move this one and this one to do arrows. So almost like a chevron kind of thing. There you are. See, half square triangles are so versatile with so many different things. Let's see, I know I want to try to do a pinwheel. Is that a pinwheel? No, it is not. But that's okay. That's kind of like a neat block. So that would be down that way. This would be there. Up that way. And then there. Oh yeah, it's kind of like a standard block. So there. There. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so I said that one, that one, that one, and then that one. Yeah, there we are. And the same thing. Oh yeah, that was a cool design. I may do that one. I kind of like the look of that design. I don't know what I'm going to do. You guys already know what I'm going to do because I put it on the picture for the preview of this. I don't know which one I'm picking yet. Okay, how do I, let me think. I'm staring at it a bit to see how I can do a pinwheel. Let's see. Let me do, I know how to do it. So I go down, let me go up, and then down, and then around, and then around. There it is. That's what it is. There's my pinwheels. Okay, so up, down, around, and there. And then up, there. So I'm just copying the rows to make it easier. Once I figure out a design, then I just sit and copy it. There we are. So then there's 4 pinwheels. Let's see, what else can I do? Ooh, I know one. Let's do a starburst. So if we do there, now this one, I actually drew out ahead of time, and I'm looking at another picture of mine just to figure out the starburst. And then there, and then there, and here, because I've got to play with things beforehand, right? And then there, and then this row goes this way. And this goes here, there, there, and of course you can always play with graph paper. I love playing with graph paper and playing with, well, how am I going to design this? how is it going to happen? Oh yeah, that's really cool. I like that one. Now, and then of course, you've got all sorts of cool different things. So, yeah, so half square triangles are super, super versatile. You can do all sorts of different things with them. And this is just with 2 colors. Imagine what you could do with all sorts of different colors playing with half square triangles. So I'm going to sew my block together and show you the finished product, which I can't wait to figure out what I want to do. And I have a half square triangle block. Yeah, I decided to go back to the original. Now, I could do it this way, or I could do it that way. Whichever way I want. Or I could do it that way, or I could do it that way. I don't know what I'm doing with this block yet, but it's a cool block. I just like making 12-inch blocks because eventually I may just turn them all into a quilt. I don't know. Hopefully you learned something today. Making half square triangles. I want to see your blocks. I want to see your half square triangles. Please send me pictures, post them on my social media, and don't forget to like this video and follow my YouTube as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. I started a Pinterest, I know, but don't forget about Twitch, where you can sew and interact with me as I'm streaming live.